Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
I've been on a couple cruises. It's been a while, but I've visited a lot of the islands in the Caribbean. And so I know a bit about cruising. It's been a couple years, but Thomas sent me a note and said, Steve, check out the story from cruisehive.com. Cruisehive.com. Never heard of the website, but they specialize in stories involving cruises. And the headline by Melissa Mainz is, Cruise line accidentally charges couple almost $100,000 for dinner. And of course, the best part of the story, I'm going to ruin it for you. The best two parts of the story. One is they had a prepaid meal plan. And two is it wasn't the meal, it was the tip. Almost $100,000. So in a one-of-a-kind error, a passenger aboard Royal Caribbean's Symphony of the Seas was accidentally charged almost $100,000 for a meal at the ship's specialty eatery, Jamie's Italian, by Jamie Oliver. While the charge was quickly reversed, there had been financial holds placed on the card and poor communication, which wound up leaving a bad taste in the mouth of the cruiser who had this happen to them after enjoying dinner at Jamie's Italian. So the man was with his wife, and they were shocked to discover that their shipboard account said their recent meal cost them $98,638.93. The couple had already purchased the ship's unlimited dining package, which includes multiple entrees and multiple specialty restaurants every night of sailing, and can be a savings up to 40% depending on the venues. So a lot of the cruise lines will offer these packages, or they have buffets where you can just go up and gorge. Okay? And I'm talking about, I saw a guy walking away from a buffet once with a mountain of bacon on a plate like this high. And I thought, oh, he's got a family of 12. He went and sat at a table by himself and just started shoveling in the bacon. But hey, you can do that at a buffet apparently. So Jamie's Italian is a favorite restaurant of this couple's. They're both big Italian food fans. And this wasn't even the first time they dined at that restaurant on this cruise. So speaking to Cruise Hive, Alex said, the lemon meringue cheesecake is probably my favorite restaurant dessert of any restaurant on land or boat. So he's saying it's that good. After their meal, the couple authorized a gratuity to their account. So the meal was prepaid because of the prepaid meal plan. But they said, tell you what, we're going to tip the wait staff. We're going to tip the waiter or waitress. So that wound up being something to the tune of $96,000 or $98,000. The incident happened on September 5th while the couple was enjoying a 7-night round-trip Eastern Caribbean sailing aboard the Oasis class Symphony of the Seas. The ship had departed Fort Lauderdale on Saturday and spent both Sunday and Monday at sea before the startling charge appeared. Charge was an inadvertent error because they had typed in the ID number instead of the amount of the gratuity in the box where you put the gratuity. So it's an honest mistake. We heard about this very recently where somebody else had typed in the wrong thing in customer ID into a box, and there you go. But so they typed in the customer ID. Royal Caribbean reversed the charge, but the difficulty continued for the guests as the authorization on their American Express card remained, effectively tying up the card and prohibiting its use for the rest of their cruise. So that's one of the other issues. A lot of times these vendors or merchants will reverse a charge and they say it's taken care of. And you go in and look at your account, whether it's a bank account or a credit card or whatever, and it'll say that it's still there pending. And I've had them stay there for days before. And that's what you're always worried about, because until it disappears, you still kind of wonder. But while that's pending, they still couldn't use this card. Alex said, I've been pretty frustrated because although Royal Caribbean reversed the charge, the authorization on my card remains. This has been pretty stressful to deal with while on vacation. We had our card decline while off the boat on an island, presumably because the authorization was locking up the available credit on the card. Now, the couple does emphasize this was not the fault of their server, who was hardworking, kind, and attentive during the meal. This was a tech problem and a communication failure, not the fault of the ship's crew, other than entering the wrong number in the box. While on board, Alex tried to work with guest services to have the authorization removed, but but was told because the authorization would eventually drop off the account, there was nothing more to be done, and the charge had been removed. Unfortunately, it can take 5 to 7 days after the cruise is finished before such an authorization is removed from a credit card, and in the meantime, the affected funds remain locked up and in limbo. Now, Alex continued to say this was a huge stressor on our vacation, which we did not cause. This wasn't an accidental $20 or $100 authorization. This is the amount of a small house in some parts of the U.S. Alex was not informed as to whether or not anyone from the cruise line reached out to American Express to resolve the situation, and there was no communication about any additional steps Royal Caribbean may have taken to have the authorization removed. After the cruise ended, Alex spent hours on the phone with Royal Caribbean's customer service to no avail and with no further resolution. The one small good point of all of this is the two are grateful they had used a credit card rather than a debit card to fund their shipboard purchases. Because you can imagine that that would have been a big nightmare. Had they used a debit card, real funds would have been tied up in the error, which could impact other non-cruise charges such as regular bill payments or other transactions through that account. But because this happened with a credit card, the authorization will eventually be dropped, even though it's been stressful and challenging to deal with while on vacation. Alex's frustration comes because there would be no easy way to avoid this type of error completely. I cannot see in any scenario where someone would be dropping $100,000 at Jamie's Italian, or for that matter, who is leaving a $100,000 tip anywhere on the boat. Now, many boats have casinos on board, and I can picture if somebody hit it huge at the casino, they might have a huge tip, but even so, $100,000 might seem steep. So this would have been an easy technology fix. There should be some verification for numbers over a certain amount of dollars that throws a flag if it seems disproportionate based on the amount of the overall check. And that's something that I hope they look at. Royal Caribbean is one of the 2 cruise lines that I took cruises with. And I can tell you, by the way, if you've never cruised before, you have to understand it's a whole different thing. I've been to islands before where I flew there and just got around on my own. And I've been on a cruise ship that went to islands and did that. And a cruise ship is basically where you're sleeping in the hotel and the hotel moves overnight. So some of them are timed very, very well to where they pull out of a port and start heading along in the evening. You go to bed, you wake up and you're in another port. And so now the hotel room is very small, but the hotel moves and it's got all these different restaurants and the amenities are very good and they are very attentive, the staff is, and they usually have very, very good customer service. At least Royal Caribbean did when I was with them. And the thing about it is I've had people tell me, Steve, I cruised once and I hated it, or I've heard stories. Like I said, you just have to understand the mindset. You're not going on the cruise to spend time on the boat. You're going on the cruise to spend time ashore at all the different places the cruise stops at. And so, yeah, you want the accommodations to be nice between the islands, for instance. But when you say, well, but the room is really small, you're not planning on spending that much time in the room. The point is you're spending your time on the islands, okay? But getting back to these people, they go to a restaurant. They have a prepaid meal plan. So all they got to do is sign the thing and say, we're going to pay a tip, which the tip will come out of their pocket. And the guy goes back and misenters it and enters it as a $98,000 tip. And it turns out that 98, whatever the rest of the numbers are, matches up with the ID number these people had on board the boat. And it's obvious what had happened. It's obvious. But fixing it takes so much time that it did not get resolved with the credit card company before these people got off the boat. And that's a problem. And you'd think that American Express or Royal Caribbean or both could solve that problem pretty easily. But they're both huge organizations, and they do what they do, and they say, hey, it's going to work out eventually. And that is a problem I've always had with these gigantic corporations that just say, hey, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. Well, you're not going to worry about it because it doesn't affect you, the big corporation, the way it affects one person, And so, I mean, I've had very, very frustrating experiences, never on a cruise ship like this, but frustrating experiences with big, big corporations that just say, don't worry, it'll take care of itself. Well, I'm going to worry about it until it takes care of itself. And the idea that these people are on board this ship, trying to take care of it, doesn't get taken care of, get off the ship, trying to take care of it, and it still takes a while once they're on the land, that to me is a problem. But it's a crazy story. Thomas sent it. Thanks a lot. From cruisehive.com, written by Melissa Mainz. Cruise line accidentally charges couple almost $100,000 for dinner. And the real kicker is that wasn't the cost of dinner. That was the tip. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Plans are only good intentions unless they immediately degenerate into hard work.